Hi there everyone, my name's Alex. I'm from Concept Music here at the Bass Place. And look, I've had a chat with your parents and we've both decided and agreed that it's high time we sit down and have the chat about active and passive basses. So strap yourself in, let's do this. So when people find themselves in the Bass Place here or checking out basses online, often for beginners the question is passive or active electronics. So a lot of your entry-level basses will have passive electronics in them. Now this basically means that there's nothing powering that signal and you don't have access to a 3-band EQ that you do when you have an active preamp in your bass. Okay, so when you're looking at basses and you're wondering whether they've got active electronics or not, normally the easiest giveaway is the battery pack located at the back of the bass here. Now there'll always be at least one of these if you do have active electronics in the bass. Now basically, this 9-volt battery will power a 3-band EQ that sits here with the rest of the volume and the tone controls. And if you're lucky, you'll have an active to passive switch that basically allows you to toggle between engaging the active EQ or dialing it back to passive, bypassing that, and just giving you the straight sound of the pickups directly through your amp. Now, and this is something that over, I guess, the course of my career as a bass player, it's kind of cropped up quite a few times. And I can say for myself, I started playing bass on a passive instrument, one that didn't have any active electronics in it. And it was fine, you know? I wasn't left wanting for anything. It was a cool kind of a P bass kind of a tone. Did the job for many years. I eventually went on to get a bass that had active electronics in it. And this really kind of rocked my world because this allowed me to both boost and cut my bass, my middle and my treble frequencies, which actually allowed for a lot more kind of tonal variety. Now I used active electronics pretty much in everything for 10 plus years, something like that. And it wasn't until I had an emergency on stage where the 9-volt batteries that power the active electronic, active preamp in the bass died right before I needed to go on stage. Now, I had an active passive switch, which is one of these little switches here, that actually saved the day. I was able to continue playing, but only in passive mode. Now, this actually gave me a much more kind of organic tone, one that sat within the mix of a live band situation a lot better than my active tone was. And unbeknownst to me, I was actually playing with a lot nicer overall tone from a front of house mix perspective. So the choice is really quite subjective. There's no hard or fast rules about any of this stuff, which is what makes playing an instrument so awesome. I tend to find that when I'm playing in a room, just jamming out by myself, and I want a really big, meaty bass tone, that's when I engage the active electronics. I can boost the bass a lot, have a really big, strong tone, and feel awesome about it. It's great for slap, it's great for the finger picking, all of that stuff. It sounds produced and awesome. And then typically if I'm playing in a live scenario, I want that kind of ease back of the tone and allow the other instruments on the stage to breathe as well and allow me to pocket really well with every other instrument that's playing around me. So really, really depends. Because if you're in a band with less instruments and you need a bigger tone, that active preamp there is going to be there for you and it will allow you to fill out the mix, which you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do as well with just passive electronics. Okay, so now we're just gonna take a look at a few of the different sounds you can achieve using the active preamp. So there's actually a big difference between your passive sound and your active sound because you've got this 9-volt battery powering the signal and making it more hot. So this is your passive tone. Nice, right? Let's flick it into active mode. So way more hot. So I've basically got the bass frequency up to 10, and I've got the trebles up to 10. I've got the middle the mid-range just above halfway. The cool thing with a lot of these controls is that you'll feel a halfway notch. So you'll be able to figure out where it is you are in relation to everything else. So, you know, you can get some truly horrible tones with this as well. If you're dialing everything back except the treble. That's your supermarket speaker special. You'll seldom ever use that setting, I think. What I normally like to do is at least have all of these 3-band EQ at 12 o'clock, and then you can cut or boost from there. It's not so much a 0 to 10 kind of thing. It's more like a 12 o'clock and then negative and positive from there. Think about it like that. Yeah, so if you're wanting to get more of like a slap heavy kind of tone, you can kind of crank up the bass and the treble, and typically the thing to do would be to cut the mid-range a little bit. And that gives you that kind of scooped tone. If you dial the bass back to maybe halfway, keep the treble up high and pump the mids up a little bit, you get more of a honky kind of a jazz bass kind of tone. It's more mids. And then you can have everything just kind of flat, and that's a good way to kind of maintain the natural tone of the instrument. Keep everything kind of even and nothing too over the top. The potentially sound guy might have to cut out in a live mix anyway. It really depends on your scenario. If you're just playing at home, do what you want. It's going to sound really cool and thumpy and thunderous, which is part of the excitement of being a bass player. And then if you're in that live scene or the live set or anything else and you want to minimize the oomphiness of that tone a little bit, hit it on passive and then go for it. All right, so there's no right or wrong answers when it comes to this. Having active electronics in your bass is going to give you the most tonal possibilities on board at your fingertips without having to use other gear. Passive tone is awesome in its own right, and basically variety is the spice of life, as we all know, and having access to these options right in front of you is always a great thing to have. So I'd encourage you to come down to the bass place at Concept Music here, give them a go for yourself, see what you think, and we'll see you then.